Does bread make you fat? Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a study where they compared two groups of people. One group was allowed to eat bread, another group was not allowed to eat bread, and they were trying to see the impact of that on weight loss. Before we look at the study, I just want to say a few things. So when it comes to weight loss, a lot of people have this idea of there are certain foods that you can eat that are healthy, other foods that you can't eat. This black and white, pretty wooden approach to getting into shape and trying to improve their diet. Oftentimes that leads to people believing that you have to have this perfect system in place. Everything has to be healthy all the time, 100% of the time. And if you don't, if you deviate from that, you're being unhealthy. You're doing something that's bad for you and you're going to get fat. Now, if we look at the study was conducted over about 16 weeks, and both groups were eating the same number of calories, the same amounts of macronutrients, so proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. The only difference was the one group was allowed to eat bread and the other group was not. So the group that was not allowed to eat bread had to find other carbohydrate sources to hit their carbohydrate goal. So what was the result? What were the results of the study? Well, they didn't find any significant difference when it comes to weight loss, body composition, between both of the groups. So basically, bread did not make the diet participants fat. However, there was a significant difference between the groups. Now, the difference between the groups was basically this. The group that was not allowed to eat bread had a way higher dropout rate. They couldn't stick to the diet as much as the group who was allowed to eat bread. The numbers were basically 21.3% of the non-bread eating group dropped out of the study versus about 6.6% for the bread eating group. There was basically 3 times the rate of dropouts in the non-bread eating group as the bread eating group. So that's pretty crazy to think about. The only thing that was different between the group was one group was allowed to eat bread and the other group wasn't. And it was just more difficult, in essence, to stick to the non-bread diet versus the bread diet. Did not have any other significant impact for body composition or weight loss. This is a pretty good study to look at when it comes to the psychology of weight loss. And I think we can learn quite a few different things from this study. So I think, first of all, hopefully the obvious point here is that bread does not make you fat. It's pretty clear. You could do experiments on yourself, and there's definitely a lot of debate over what do you feel better with. Do you like to have a higher carbohydrate diet or a lower carbohydrate diet? But there's been many studies done on this, and when you control for overall calories and protein, there's not going to be a significant difference in body composition from a higher carbohydrate or a lower carbohydrate diet. But just more relevant and more specific to this study, the case of bread as a source of carbohydrates does not make you fat, at least relative to other type of carbohydrate sources. So key thing to keep in mind, bread does not make you fat. Now, the second piece that I want to talk about, or the second, takeaway from the study would be weight loss is psychological just as much as it is physical. Sometimes people have this idea that you need to have the perfect approach. And sure, you want to know what you need to do. You want to know what the best practices are, the best steps that you can take to get into shape, to lose the weight, and to keep the weight off. But there's never going to be a perfect system. You're never going to have all of the information. We don't know everything there is to know about the human body. We know quite a bit. We know plenty and enough to get to the point where you can lose weight. But even still, if you're not an expert or you haven't been, successful in weight loss with weight loss in the past, this can make things very frustrating. So I think keeping in mind that it is a psychological process just as much as it is physical. And so you have to try to figure out what's going to work for you physically, but also psychologically. And if you're overly strict on yourself, if you're overly restrictive on what foods you can and can't eat, oftentimes you end up setting yourself up for failure. And this is a good case study example of that. So there's no reason to make weight loss much more psychologically demanding than it already is. For sure, there are foods that are easy to overeat. There are foods that are higher in calories and that can make weight loss difficult. You can lose weight eating a diet of just McDonald's. You can lose weight eating a diet of, any particular food because you lose weight by creating a calorie deficit. That's the main driver for weight loss. But when you're telling yourself, I'm never going to eat this food, I'm never going to eat that food ever again, most of the time it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When are you going to eat that food again? And so when you do eat that food again, what is your response to that? A lot of times if you've got that black and white approach to things, good and bad, you end up giving up, beating yourself up, feeling pretty miserable about your situation, and maybe even losing motivation and ultimately quitting. Just throw your hands up, man, I can't stick to this diet. It's impossible. I just love bread. I just love this. And when I eat that food, it makes me fat, so I can't lose weight. That's the wrong view. That's the wrong mindset. That's the wrong approach to it. I think also keeping in mind human nature. Oftentimes when you tell yourself, I'm never going to do this thing, or I'm not allowed to do that thing, what is the very first thing you want to do? In the case of bread, you're never allowed to have bread. You can't eat bread. You want to eat bread. That's the number one thing you're going to want to do. So I think keeping that in mind too. Sometimes it's better to have it out of sight, out of mind. If you have a struggle with eating too much bread or eating too much candy or what have you, don't buy it, don't have it in the house, but don't be thinking about, I can't eat that or I can't eat this. Just don't do it and don't have it there. And maybe that sounds like that's oversimplifying things, but I think that really is something important to keep in mind. Because if you keep reminding yourself of these things you can't do and you keep, thinking about that thing, that's going to make you want to eat that thing or do that thing in particular. And so you might have to figure out what your struggle is, what the best strategy for you to approach limiting yourself on that food or that particular item. But experiment with that. See if that helps. See if that makes things easy. I know for me, I don't normally think about candy very often, but man, if I have candy or food or something right in front of me, I'm going to be eating all of it. For example, one day I went to the grocery store and I was trying to lose weight, and I walked down the candy aisle and I bought a big, huge bag of Sour Patch Kids. I've never really thought about Sour Patch Kids that much before. I love them, but it's not like I go about my day thinking about them and when I can eat them next. So I ended up making an impulsive decision. I bought them, and for about a week, that basically derailed my progress because I just could not limit myself. I basically ate the whole entire thing, and it sucks, but it was just there and it was tempting me. And so by thinking about it and having it readily available for me to eat, I didn't have the control of the willpower to make that happen. So everyone fails. Everybody has bad days. What's important is that you pick yourself back up and you keep moving along with the process. You don't have this black and white view that if you have a bad day or a couple bad days or you fall off the wagon a bit, that it's over. It's only over if you quit. It's only over if you give up and you never try again. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So basically, to summarize this video, I just thought this study was pretty interesting to kind of go into the psychology behind weight loss and also show a little bit practically that bread doesn't make you fat. Sometimes there's a lot of weird claims about foods and what they do. But to summarize, bread does not make you fat. If you're eating too many calories of anything, that's what's going to make you fat. So two of the most important factors for weight loss: creating that calorie deficit and sustaining it. Can you follow a diet that you can stick to? And if you can, and if you can keep up with that over a long period of time, you're going to be more successful than someone who's got a yo-yo approach where you follow an extreme diet, you do extreme things, lose a little bit of weight, and then you gain it right back off. But just like everything else, weight loss and getting into shape is not going to be a perfect system. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but you got to take it, one day at a time and focus on each day individually and try to do the best that you can. If you have a bad day, get back after it again tomorrow. But don't be overly rigid. Don't be overly strict with your diet and what you're going to follow, because sometimes that approach can make things much more challenging than they need to be and make it more difficult to lose weight. Please let me know your thoughts on the study and on this video in the comments down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said. Let me know your perspective. Are there any foods or anything you struggle with in particular with overeating? Were there any strategies that helped you to overcome that and help you to kind of stick to your diet? I'd look forward to hearing from you and having a discussion. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please give it a like. Please subscribe for future videos. I look forward to seeing you again next time. And good luck with your fitness goals and your fitness journey, everyone. Catch you next time.